Alright, after dealing with literally the Castlevania police, I wish I was joking, let's move on. And we managed to rescue Deji again. Hope he's not intoxicated by the blood.
Okay, Deds, a few things you mentioned in the last part that you missed out on. Basically, this whole city is built on the remains of Dracula's castle from years ago in the modern time.
Said.
And here's the dumb thing, it's literally called Castlevania City.
Bit on the nose, ain't it?
Yeah.
Edge.
Wow, I guess he was stupefied by that.
I guess. Well. Okay. To be fair, considering the company that oversaw this production, I'm not surprised. I mean, would you really be surprised if Gabriel would have found some we're in a castle right now? Sorry, where are we right now? To remind me.
Still in the city, just
city. Well, there's no jungle, so I'll just go I've been waiting for you, Gabriel. I am City Evil. And
kinda.
Too bad there's no jungles in this game, otherwise
like he said, okay, again, I love this game and everything, but that kind of naming is, if it was intended as a joke, which it probably is, it was a bit too on the nose.
Well, to be fair, this is meant to be a spin-off series of sorts.
No, but I mean, even in universe, it just doesn't make much sense.
Speaking of Castlevania,
there's a game called Super Mario Land, and
also, yes, the Advanced Collection is being rated yet again, but until an official announcement.
Well, that's the thing, the Dwebs. If we're going to go by Mario Land 2, Mario is apparently quite the ego because he has an M spotted on the front of his castle.
Also, there seems to be
he has a castle. What?
There seems to be some chaos in the streets. Essentially, if both demons and the police show up, they will start fighting each other and don't pay too much attention to you, which is admittedly nice. I always have a bit of an annoyance spot whenever in a video game two enemies but two should technically hate each other more than you completely loses attention towards each other and basically team up against you. Especially noticeable in stuff like Monster Hunter, where herbivores literally team up with carnivores just because you show up as a hunter.
Unbelievable. But okay. I get that. It's like I said earlier, I feel like this game's strength and its weakness is just that they threw in all that they could ideas-wise, without necessarily a filter for what might be a dumb idea here and there. Again, it was probably because this was good. This had, well, as far as they knew, this was going to be it for the series, but all the same, though, it does lead to some very weird oddities.
It does. But that's the thing, Dej. To me, the biggest highlight in terms of weird, ego-ridden writing in the franchise is the opening of Mario Party 2, where everybody's complaining. Mario.
It's called Mario Land.
No. That's the thing. But Mario wants it.
Wario Land.
And Peach wants it to be called Peach Land. So it's just that's kind of interesting that even Peach.
Everyone in that universe is an egotist.
But when Bowser threatens to call it Bowser Land, that's when everyone's like, oh, no. This guy's going too far.
I think, wasn't Bowser still referred as Koopa back then?
No, Bowser.
This is the N64 game.
No.
According to the Chronicles, after the destruction of Dracula's castle, an enormous white wolf came forth from the darkness and howled at the moon on this very spot. Those who saw it said that they felt comforted and protected by his presence. The story was soon known by everyone. Multitudes gather here fruitlessly awaiting a praise of a mythical animal. Although eventually many have sworn to have seen it, there has never been any proof of its existing. Stories reached basically the hearts and memories of millions.
If I remember correctly...
White wolf. Yes, go on, Pedro.
If I remember correctly, it was first in the Super Mario World manual that they started calling him Bowser, but don't quote me on that.
I believe so, and then they didn't start calling Peach. That Peach was known as Toadstool in America.
Which is why she was called like that in the Dick cartoons.
Yeah, they were honestly, to their credit, they were actually being fair to what at the time were the names, so it's fine.
And to be fair, Princess Toadstool kind of make more sense seeing as how she's princess of a bunch of toads.
Well, okay. Well, to be fair, Mario 64 kind of does the Eggman Robotnik thing at the beginning by implying that Peach is more of a nickname and that her real name is Princess Toadstool. You know?
No, it's more like the Peach is her first name.
That reminds me, speaking of Bowser...
so it's Peach Toadstool. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
Speaking of the Bowser terminology, did you guys know that the king in the Super Mario Brothers movie is actually supposed to be Bowser?
Wait, what?
Wait. Could you run me by that one more time?
Apparently the king in the Super Mario Brothers movie is supposed to be Bowser.
Not the actual King Koopa played by Dennis Hopper.
But we already had a Bowser.
No.
He's King Koop.
No. Don't you see? He's referred to just as King Koop in the movie, whereas apparently the actual rightful king in that movie is known as King Bowser.
Well, then somebody in that movie screwed up, but Bowser and King Koopa are supposed to be the same character. King Koopa being his Japanese name. So
let me go get the link to show
Yeah, in the
you.
meantime, let's get to the sewers. Hooray!
God, I sure hope that new movie is good.
yeah, don't worry, Dej. Don't worry, Dej. I'm sure Illumination will do just fine.
Dej, have you seen the fake copy pasta that try to imagine what the trailer might be?
And on 4chan, yes, and it gets cursed.
Those are absolutely hilarious.
There's a rumor that because of someone's LinkedIn, apparently the creators of Teen Titans Go are directing this movie.
Oh,
yeah, I've heard.
Okay, the movie or the show? Or they're like the same?
Wait, they're done by the same staff.
Oh.
So here you guys go. The IMDb page lists, let's see his name. Yes, Lance Henriksen is King Bowser.
Wait, Lance Henriksen? We can skip this banner. Lance Henriksen, isn't it the guy who basically... Oh, I forgot the name. The android from the Alien movies.
I believe so. Yes. He plays Daisy's father, the king.
Well, I guess if they can get Dennis Hopper, then yeah, I guess they'll be able to get him.
What the fuck was this movie?
A fever dream that most Mario fans wish. Yes, it does have for whatever reason a passionate cult fan base of sorts. But
the cast might have had a fever dreaming if what they said about the development production to the point they were literally boiling due to the hotness of the set was true.
Oh, remember, Balaskins called it a literal nightmare. So.
Wait, Pedro, if this was a fever dream, wouldn't it be an adaptation of Mario 2 then?
True.
No. Don't you see? That was an actual dream as opposed to a fever dream. It was a fever dream because everyone was hot and sweating. But you know the sad thing about this movie? It originally was starting off as something faithful to the series. Heck,
they were originally going to get what's his name, who plays Egon in Ghostbusters, Harold Ramis.
Huh.
Yeah, what about him?
Harold Ramis.
He was originally meant to write the scripts for the movie.
God, that would have been so brilliant. And you know what? There are even remnants from the older script, apparently. Apparently, the fact that Mario and Luigi actually have good, faithful costumes is something to go off there. And you know what? I'll give this movie credit. It still is one of the best live-action adaptation costumes of a property I've seen. Because even with good adaptations, a lot of times they screw up the looks of the costumes badly, but... I'll be honest.
Why the giant boots were.
Okay, well, that's to help them jump better. But okay, I'll just say this: I could totally go for Mario and Luigi having costumes in later games that are based off of their movie counterparts.
Yeah.
Like, no, those costumes are legit.
Sorry, Drova, it didn't show up in Super Mario Odyssey, therefore it's not canon.
But they referenced the movie in Odyssey.
Yeah,
They did.
Yeah, you know how Mario goes through a painting, and how Yeah, it's kind of like...
Yeah, they do a reference to the world transitioning effect in that movie. Yeah.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yep.
Look.
Well, that's the thing. Remember, Miyamoto hates that movie, but we do,
he said he likes it.
Oh, well, I always heard that he didn't like it. Oh, whatever.
He didn't like the great mission to rescue Princess Peach OVA.
Oh, okay.
Because I felt like it was trying too hard to emulate the games instead of just trying to tell a story.
Are we talking about Miyamoto? He's actually fine with the movie.
I mean, it's all PR bluff because he's like, oh, I liked it. I was so
That being
jealous. It's too much like the
Okay,
game.
okay. That being said, that yes, like Jova's just said, it can be PR talk for all we know. Whereas, unlike him, Koizumi actually made sneak the reference into one of his games, so it is actually more likely that Koizumi might actually not be might be keen on the movie, possibly himself.
And you know what? I'll admit, I have a soft spot for that movie still.
Anyway, we're back at the pharmaceutical company. We just need to again trace back a bit of our steps and then proceed through the base, through the sewers and everything in order to reach the place where they're supposedly making the vaccine. Now let's move on.
Isolating decontamination area. Releasing decontaminating steam. Please wait. Decontamination successful. Initiating hatch opening.
Yeah, also it's a good thing to actually always try to damage the environment, because you always find some kind of extra relic that you can use, especially if you're short on that. Yeah,
standard adventure game flair.
That too. Although sadly there's no roasted chickens in the walls.
Cowards.
Well, we do see a roasted chicken later on. Don't
you
worry.
You see that? You know that not everything is about cowardice. Maybe sometimes some people will not do something just because they don't feel like it.
Huh.
Alright, let's combine this to get a bit more chaos energy.
Oh boy.
Watch out, because the actually infected here, like the biosurgeons, now start using shotguns, meaning that if you're close to them, they can inflict a lot of damage, in quick succession. Again, the advantage of a whip is that you can perform some crowd control, but if the enemy starts parrying your attack, that means that they don't get staggered, meaning that you're more susceptible if someone else wants to attack.
Same Dracula can't pull a Dawn of Sorrow and use a gun himself.
or even summon the soul of one of his servants.
Or rocket launchers. Yeah, seriously, Dawn of Sorrow is one anime as hell Castlevania.
It was later in the coverage of even the shitty one that was for the greatest hits of the Nintendo DS. It was still a much more anime style. I remember James Rolfe being utterly confused by the art direction change that the more back then recent games on the series took.
Like when
is there a hurricane over there?
You live in the same state. You tell us.
Okay, so here's the thing. Jova and I live like 3 hours apart.
Remember, Shiro, New York is fucking huge. So.
Yeah.
I'm part of the place in New York where people actually care about.
Let's not forget, Shiro, that New York is also kind of its own state of sorts. So.
Yeah.
It's interesting considering even a city like London itself, for the standards of my country, is immensely huge. So I can't even imagine how big an actual traditional American city is compared to mine cities. There we go. Also, watch out in this section because some of the bits are, connected to the electric wires or steam, meaning that you have to time right your climbing. Again, despite having a more still a scripted kind of climbing mechanic, they still bother to put some actual challenge for the more reckless. But at least there's that. They're not super dickish or booting you, in order to boot you from the very beginning. There are some minor checkpoints. Go. Anyway, yeah, okay, I have to admit, this particular part of the game is not one of the most interesting ones, not in a sense that it's bad, it's just that it's more straightforward. You're just dumped, similar to some of the levels of the filler levels in the first game, where you're just, dumped in a transitioning area, and you just have to fight a bit without too much going on plot-wise, which it's perfectly fine, technically, but it's just, the momentum that, you might get from the story kind of stops a bit.
If I may...
Go on.
I feel like, again, it's not the worst thing ever, but I do feel like maybe it's because they were adjusting to the fact that this game is a lot more open world just than the first one, but it does feel like occasionally the plot can have a bit of a trouble with a pacing problem in that regard. Again, nothing that ruins the game for me, but it is something that I do take note of from time to time here and there, with the pace sometimes slowing the heck down. Again, maybe it may harken back to them wanting to stuff as much as they could in there. And like I said, it's not to a point where the game completely suffers for it, but it is something that I do take note of, and something that unfortunately is a bit of a recurring issue in this game.
It's also, I guess it's more noticeable because there's not anymore the chapter-by-chapter structure. Instead, it's a continuous adventure. So if it happens to there be, a more dull technical moment like this one, it's more noticeable than saying, oh, it was this particular chapter in the first game or something like that.
It is something to consider. I'm trying to remember. What was the reception of this game when it came out compared to that of the first game?
Technically, I think mixed in general, but I don't remember the details. Let me check.
I recall fans
talking about like in terms of reviews or people.
In terms of both reviews and people.
I don't think there was so much of a disparity between audience and reviewers' scores. There wasn't so much of a critical dissonance. But let me see. Let me see that. There you go. The game received generally mixed reception from critics. Review aggregation website Metacritic gave the game a 58 out of 100, 63 out of 100, and 70 out of 100 across the few platforms. Reactions to the game's visuals were mixed. Critics generally praised the medieval castle setting of their let down by the modern city environments. Joystick described the environment as of almost equal spectacle to the bosses. The castle home to breathtaking views, but something the city could not live up to. Let me see another statement. Play was full of praise for the combat, describing the simply awesome and an impressive flowing combat system. They commented how the skill progression system forced players to vary their attacks. Mechanic GameSpot felt delays your effectiveness in battle somewhat, but opened the game up to different types of combat strategy. GameSpot described the bosses as a grotesque monstrosity and bring to mind some of the best designs from film director Guillermo del Toro's work. I can see some of them, I suppose. Anyway, what you need to know about this scroll is that, again, at the end of the battle between the Brotherhood and Dracula, there was a big explosion, and no one knows what happened afterwards. Only we know, in some part, because Dracula apparently still survived that, so we just don't know a couple of information. But the rest of the Brotherhood and the rest of the world just believe that Dracula was pulverized with the explosion, so they offered this memorial as gratitude. The Edge review was highly critical, highlighting the phase of the stealth section, the imaginative visual design of a modern era, and the forward pacing. Even the combat mechanics described by Edge as the game's soul-saving grace were judged to fall short of its inspirational such as the God of War series, a critic that even the first game had received. In an interview with Eurogamer Spain, Eric Alvarez, the game's director, complained that Edge's review was terribly unfair and that One must be blind or stupid to give a 4 out of 10 mark to a game with this quality. Alvarez believed the game for critical responses compared to Regionals of Shadow was due to the heightened expectations of a sequel. Still, on the whole, Alvarez said of the reception, I tend to think positive after reading some things. I'm glad when some people are writing about games instead of making them. Ouch.
Jesus.
Savage.
Well, like we mentioned in the previous part, regardless of what he did, is true or not, and to what extent. There you go. Alvarez gives the vibe of someone who wants to, doesn't really mind of mincing his words. If he wants to say something, he just says it, which. Again, it's a double-edged sword. It brings honesty, but at the same time, it can bite him in the ass.
I will say, however, that I can see where it's coming from, because this is exactly how I feel about Tom McShay in particular. I'm so glad he doesn't even write about video games anymore, but I definitely wouldn't want to play a game made by him. For those who don't know,
who is he?
The guy who back in 2013 at GameSpot gave a glowing 9 out of 10 to Beyond Two Souls. Saying, and I quote, choices that change how the characters grow, which is complete.
Did he actually play the game?
Exactly, too. Thank you.
Wait, what's his name?
Tom McShay.
Is he the same guy that complained about Hyrule Warriors? That it feels more like a Warriors.
No. By the time Hyrule Warriors came out, he was already ousted out of GameSpot. His two primary claims to fame his one primary claim to fame is his infamous negative take on DuckTales Remastered. But like I said, eventually got ousted out of there, and he hasn't actually managed to get any other job as a games journalist anyway, which is a good thing because he sucks at it.
So he's like the poster board for why people hate game journalists. Then,
yes, Joe.
Basically, yeah.
Should not base every critic off of him for that regard. And don't get me wrong, video game journalism does definitely have its problems here and there. There are, again, I would say it takes a very specific case to make it applicable for a developer to do a call out towards the critics in this case here and there. Like, if the critics are outright lying, by all means call them out. I do wonder if the call-out for the critics of this game was as justified, though. Again, maybe we might not have agreed with all their issues that they have with this game and whatnot, but like I said, I feel like this game is definitely a mixed master enough that I can see why there'd be, opinions all over the board in regards to this one.
The reviewer I think you were talking about for this game, they gave it a 4 or something?
Edge, yes.
Yeah, was the review actually unfair? Like, even if you didn't agree with all the points, was it in any way,
I haven't seen the review myself. I haven't seen the review myself, but considering what it was stated in what I said, I don't believe that. I do agree partially with also what Enrique Alvarez said, in a sense that sure. Again, they did mention they had legitimate complaints, but at the same time, they retreaded complaints that were already stale from the first game by just, dismissing the game as a God of War clone.
That just reminded me actually of the worst, the flat-out worst review of something I've ever read was, I can't remember the exact publication, but it was about the recent Witcher show.
What about it?
And basically, reviewers were given a batch of episodes, like 5 or 6, I can't remember how many exactly. And not all of them, And basically what, like the first 6, I think, and the reviewers for that publication watched like 1 or 2 episodes, and then, I'm not kidding, it's even written in their review, because life was too short, they just skipped to episode 6 and then complained the plot didn't make any sense.
Oh my god.
Wait,
You know what that reminds me?
Hold on, wait. Are you serious? They actually did that, Dibs?
Yes.
Huh.
There you go.
What are the episodes, like an hour each or something?
Yeah.
All
You're
right.
being paid to review this stuff and you couldn't
All
be
right.
bothered to go for the material? Excuse me?
For the time being, we have a train to catch. Yeah, surprisingly enough, with the way towards where they're giving the vaccine is with a train. But
That's
you
a
know what?
cliche line to you. A train to
Oh,
catch.
come on, Deds.
You know what this reminds me, Dweebs, of what you just said? There was I think a couple of months ago, a tweet from like a place, I think it was like the equivalent of The Onion, essentially, a place that makes...
Hard drive? Was it hard drive?
I think it might have been, I'm about to say, so you may know about it, that says something like a headline, something like, a gaming journalist is excited to finally play the game that has just finished reviewing.
yeah, that's hard drive. I remember that article.
Literally every major game journalist with a blue check mark that you can think of, he literally got mad at that, saying, "Oh no, please delete this. This is so not true."
It's
Okay,
it's
so-
Video Games
Entertainment-
Onion, basically.
Okay, so there's
It was
some
from Entertainment
context.
Weekly, that review, that review was, by the way.
Okay.
There's some context to it. One, it was an old article that they have a tendency to repost. However, it was during the week when IGN was going through some management issues, especially with their Free Palestine article that they were forced to take down from their higher-up parent company. So, because the article was making fun of IGN, so it just felt like poor timing. So it's like, if they did that any other week, that would have been funnier. It's just like, yeah.
It's 2 things. One, you know what's an interesting thing about that Witcher thing that we've said? Like, if I was a TV reviewer, like reviewing a Netflix show, like and they released like an entire season or something, and I was going to review that season, you know what I would do, actually, considering I've seen a lot of stuff like that on YouTube lately? Hold on.
What?
Okay.
No, go on.
Okay,
I just
okay.
need to find a way to catch the train. Go on.
Like, cause I've seen a lot of reaction videos, like, and by that I mean they have they film themselves reacting to either
Yeah.
movie or these episodes and whatever. That's basically what I would do. I would literally have on my YouTube channel of me reacting live to my first watches, so that I can have there you go. See, you can literally see me watching the whole thing to know that I have indeed watched the whole thing. So, because not only would it do some for good ad revenue, it would help legitimize my reviews. So,
Well, that's not even that, Pedro. Like the modern culture of people people who are just like students or like have works that take them a while to get back home or something. It takes them a lot of their life. Still manage to actually binge watch some of these series in a very effective way. So what's the excuse of these journalists to not dedicate
None.
a couple of hours of their times to actually
Especially
binge
when
these
it
stuff?
actually is their job.
the answer is none, too. As for the second thing,
Oops. Gotta get out.
okay, go on.
Nothing to see here, fine gent. Moving on.
His armor looks like the armor of a Duel Monsters card.
Kind of, well, Konami,
Yeah.
A shame that Yu-Gi-Oh! Stopped having cards that reference other Konami stuff.
I summoned bold big gunman in attack mode.
Anyway, here's the here to give you a refresher. Here's the actual points made by Tom McShay about you know how they have the good and the bad in there at the end of the reviews, and a little sum up thing, all the good points and the bad points on games. Sorry.
Basically, now our train level is gonna consist of a big boss fight against this particular demon guy, basically all over the train. So let's have some fun.
Sure.
Okay, I'll admit, some of the bosses in this game I do feel can range from, oh, exciting to just, oh, suddenly you show up, like...
Once the door of Avernus were opened, demonic hordes began to invade the earth, unleashing terror and despair among mankind. Pity does not exist for the soldiers of Satan, who carve up their victims with knives of bone and drain their souls through the festering ember bladder of their chest. The brilliant light of the underworld shine from their lorax. The last fortunate citizens see their inner demon unleashed. Is a phantasmagorical snake with a voracious appetite, capable of breaking through walls, armor, and threat with his powerful jaws. Go on, Jova. Sorry.
Like I said, I do feel like some of these bosses just feel like, oh, not glorified booth, but kind of just, ooh, here comes suddenly a generic monster or something. Like, okay, not only that, but I feel like it also goes into the setup. You're like, this guy just suddenly pops out of nowhere because we needed a boss for the train.
And now we integrate the boss fight with the stealth section. So first, let's get out. Ow, ow.
Ow.
I'm afraid I didn't hear. Can you repeat, mister?
Why don't you just shoot the couplings while you're at
Also,
it?
Jova, I know that you're not appreciate fooling these because we're not playing the William Tell's Overture.
Hey. Even though that is quite possibly the best train scene in all film media, doesn't mean it's the only good
Oh, you
one.
piece of shit.
Wow. That's just petty.
Like, that's gonna stop me. At best, I'm gonna just have to walk a bit more. Jesus Christ.
Maybe he's hoping you'll get tired after those few extra steps.
I guess my only wondering is like, well, maybe they could have like set up the boss a bit more before he just pops out of nowhere. Like, oh,
Ow.
I'm gonna leave a mark.
Yep.
Whee!
Ow.
Hey, at least the music is nice and majestic for this train sequence.
Yeah.
You think the conductor would maybe have slowed down the train by now, wondering what the hell's
Funny
going
you
on?
mentioned that, Jova. That's for a later dialogue.
Oh, I played this. Like, we need to use the rocket to take one of the carriages.
Why is that?
Dracula with a rocket launcher.
Again, in a certain other game he does. Nothing to notice here, guards.
Just a guy walking on a train.
Also,
Yeah.
I think you're a bit ahead, Jova.
Just another day.
But yeah. Hold on.
Oh, there's no one even in the train.
Actually, no. There's a guard. So I had to jump cut a bit because some of these cell sections, if you're not quick enough on your reflexes, you can easily get killed, actually.
Oh, so this seems more like a cargo train than a passenger train.
Mm-hmm. That's because while we're transporting the scientists, they're also mostly, smuggling stuff that need to transport for the other lab.
Alright.
Oh, see here, just fill God, hail Satan. Yada.
Something, yeah.
A Merry Critter Christmas.
Hey,
Hail
it's
Satan!
you again.
There you go.
Oh, alright.
Okay, round
Let's
2.
fight some more.
Didn't we kill Satan?
Not really, Shiri. We only exorcise him back to hell. The entire point of this game is to destroy his acolytes before we can actually resurrect him.
Yeah, get luck with that.
Oh, here. Like to give you a basic idea of what I was talking about, too. Here are the quote-unquote good points, because he has no bad points in his review of Beyond the Souls.
Of course.
Well-developed characters with evolving personalities, grounded story that examines human failings, controls help draw you into Jodie's plight, choices let you develop Jodie and Aiden as you wish. Bullshit!
Like, the closest to that statement I can agree with is that Willem Dafoe's character is, interestingly enough, not super developed, but sure as hell a bit interesting.
Okay. To GameSpot's credit, not only did they eventually get rid of this guy, but they actually did get another guy to re-review the game for its 2016 re-release.
And if
how
I
did that
recall
one
correctly, that review was way lower in the score.
Well, only by 1 point, to be fair. He still gave it an 8 out of 10, to be fair. Yeah, he said.
Regardless, though, I do feel like the review in context was.
No, it's a more reasonable review. To sum up, he says great graphical upgrades in terms of the remaster, wonderful performances from Page and Defoe, fair. Strong implementation of QTEs and branching paths. No, I'm gonna have to disagree with theirs. Sunny.
Would have been heavy rain.
Inconsistent supporting cast. True. These are the bad points. Sorry.
There's your go, Java. The reason why the train driver seems to be out of control is that this guy killed him. So this guy is so petty that he wants the train crash just so that Gabriel does not get to his goal.
Like there are plenty of things with the whole opinion thing, but no. Like Tom McShade doesn't just have a different opinion. He flat out lies about it in his review.
Yeah, like okay, when you get to the point of outright lying, that's when you can definitely.
That would be like if I tried to defend an RPG by saying there's hack and slash in it, even though that makes no sense. Like
that reminds me. Again, on another subject, that reminds me of a wrestling review where one of the top wrestling critics complained about bad commentary in a wrestling match in NXT, but there was no commentary in it.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how Dracula takes the train.
Crashes them.
No.
So I've seen the game several times. You can't even try to argue that, the reviewer misinterpreted what, the game was trying to put across. Because it's like, no, I don't understand how you got to any of those.
And the worst part, and the worst part is that, people like that still get paid for doing something like that. If it was something like still, like a Goliardic thing, just for hobby, it's you can just dismiss it, the Big Lebowski way of that's just like your opinion, man. But these people still get paid. To
be fair, and just to finish this, in his other bad point, aside from inconsistent side cast, he also says messy tonal shifts, which is definitely a true for Beyond Two Souls.
Turns out the servant can actually speak.
He's just looking out for Dracula.
Stop being a tsundere, Gabriel.
What are we looking for?
Your mum.
Some friends.
Somewhere important. I saw many of their elite boarding it. Find where this leads.
Which is what we're gonna find. Well, at least we're gonna try to find out in the next part. See ya.
See ya.
See ya.